Before you scroll, before you doubt, pause for just a second, because this message didn't reach you by chance. There is someone who has tried everything to replace what you gave them. Someone who searched for your reflection in other faces, other connections, other conversations, and failed every single time. No one compares. Not the way you loved, not the way you understood them, not the way you left a mark that time itself couldn't erase. And now, the energy around you is shifting, because the person who once walked away is being pulled back by a realization they can no longer escape. This isn't about curiosity or nostalgia. This is about regret turning into courage. This is about someone finally admitting that what they lost was rare, sacred, and not easily found again. They're returning with the weight of their mistakes on their heart, not to repeat the past, but to correct it. There's a quiet urgency in this energy, a sense that if they don't speak now, they may lose you forever. The universe has been placing you in their thoughts at unexpected moments, reminding them of what life felt like when you were there, and showing them that every comparison only leads back to you. As I tune into this message for you, Sophia, 3 powerful cards rise to the surface: the Lovers, Judgment, and the Knight of Cups. These cards don't speak of coincidence. They speak of soul recognition, awakening, and an emotional return driven by truth and sincerity. Together, they reveal a story of realization after loss, of love being chosen consciously, and of someone stepping forward with an open heart, ready to make things right. Stay with me. Don't skip ahead. What's unfolding here goes deeper than a simple return. It reveals why they couldn't move on, what finally woke them up, and how this reunion energy is meant to change everything. When the Lovers, Judgment, and the Knight of Cups come together around this message, they don't whisper, they speak with emotional force, clarity, and purpose. This combination tells a powerful story of realization after loss, love recognized too late, and a heart that refuses to stay silent any longer. It speaks of someone who tried to move on, tried to replace what they felt with you, and discovered that no matter where they turned, nothing compared. Not the connection, not the depth, not the way you made them feel seen and understood. And now, everything they avoided is rising to the surface at once. The Lovers reveals that what you shared was never ordinary. This was not a connection built on convenience or timing. It was built on soul recognition. Even during separation, the bond remained alive, quietly influencing their choices, their comparisons, and their regrets. They didn't lose feelings for you. They lost clarity for a while, and every other connection they explored only highlighted what was missing. The Lovers shows that you became the reference point, the standard, the one they measured everything else against. And in that process, they finally understood that love like this isn't found twice. Judgment intensifies this realization. This card represents the moment everything becomes undeniable, the stage where excuses collapse and the truth stands exposed. They've reached an awakening that cannot be reversed. Memories are resurfacing not to haunt them, but to teach them. They see now how their choices affected you, how silence carried weight, how walking away created a loss that never truly healed. Judgment tells us that they are no longer running from accountability. They are ready to face what they did, what they felt, and what they lost, and to speak from a place of honesty rather than fear. This isn't a random return. Judgment shows divine timing at work. They couldn't come back sooner because they weren't ready to take responsibility. They needed distance to understand value. They needed absence to feel impact. And now, the universe has brought them to a crossroads where staying silent feels heavier than speaking, and doing nothing feels more painful than risking vulnerability. This is the energy of someone answering a call they can no longer ignore. Then the Knight of Cups enters, softening the intensity with emotion, romance, and sincerity. This card shows how they are returning, not aggressively, not impulsively, but with an open heart. The Knight of Cups carries words they've rehearsed, feelings they've finally accepted, and an emotional offering they are ready to place in your hands. They want to explain, to apologize, to express what they couldn't before. This is someone who has learned that love isn't proven by intention alone, but by action, presence, and emotional honesty. Together, these 3 cards create a complete emotional arc. The Lovers shows the depth of the bond. Judgment shows the awakening that forced them to confront the truth. And the Knight of Cups shows the response, a return guided by emotion, humility, and the desire to make things right. This isn't about reliving the past. It's about correcting it. about choosing differently with awareness instead of fear. Sophia, this combination also speaks powerfully about you. You were never forgotten. You were never replaced. You were never too much. You were simply real, and real love leaves an imprint. These cards confirm that your impact was lasting because it was genuine. The connection mattered because it was rooted in truth, not illusion. And while they are awakening now, you have already grown through the silence. You have already reclaimed your worth. This return does not put you back in a waiting position. The energy has shifted. They are approaching you knowing they must meet you at your level, not pull you back to who you used to be. Judgment brings balance. The Lovers brings mutual recognition, and the Knight of Cups brings an emotional offer, but one that must be backed by consistency if it's to mean anything. Ultimately, the combined message of these cards is clear. No one compares because no one was meant to. This person had to lose you to understand you. They had to walk away to realize what they were walking away from. And now, with eyes open and heart exposed, they are returning not to test the waters, but to speak their truth. What you choose to do with that truth is your power. But one thing is undeniable. This connection changed them, and it changed you. And the universe is bringing it full circle, not for confusion, but for clarity. The Knight of Cups arrives carrying emotion that has finally found its voice. In the context of this topic, this card speaks of a return driven not by logic, pressure, or loneliness, but by the heart's desire to express what it once held back. This is the energy of someone who has rehearsed conversations in their mind. Imagine how they would look at you again, and felt the pull to reach out grow stronger with each passing day. The Knight of Cups doesn't come empty-handed. They come with intention, vulnerability, and something meaningful to say. This card reveals that their feelings for you never disappeared. They simply went unexpressed. The Knight of Cups is emotional, romantic, and deeply reflective. It shows someone who has spent time sitting with their emotions instead of running from them. They've come to understand that suppressing love only makes it louder. In your case, this person has reached a point where keeping their feelings hidden feels more painful than the risk of opening up. The silence has become unbearable. The Knight of Cups also tells us that this return is gentle, sincere, and heartfelt. This is not someone storming back demanding another chance. This is someone approaching carefully, aware of the weight of their past actions. They want to speak to you with softness, with respect, and with a renewed sense of emotional maturity. They are thinking about how to express themselves in a way that honors what you've shared and acknowledges what they failed to give before. There is a strong element of apology within this card's energy, not always in words, but in tone, presence, and intention. The Knight of Cups shows a willingness to listen, truly listen, not just to be heard. They want to understand your experience, your pain, and your perspective. This is someone who has learned that love isn't just about how you feel, but how you show up. And now, they want to show up differently. This card also reflects romantic idealism, but in a more evolved form. They are no longer chasing fantasy or excitement. They are chasing meaning. The Knight of Cups reveals that they see you as someone they can emotionally invest in, someone who inspires them to be better, softer, and more open. You represent a love that feels safe yet transformative, and that realization has shifted how they approach you now. For you, the Knight of Cups brings reassurance. It confirms that the emotions you sensed were real. You weren't imagining the connection, the longing, or the unfinished feeling. This card validates that there was always something left unsaid, and now the universe is creating space for those words to finally emerge. It also reminds you to remain open, but discerning. Emotional offers are powerful, but they must be met with consistency to truly heal the past. The Knight of Cups also suggests timing aligned with emotional readiness. This person is no longer acting from confusion or fear. They are acting from clarity of heart. They understand that vulnerability is not weakness, it is courage. And approaching you now requires bravery, honesty, and emotional transparency. Ultimately, the Knight of Cups tells us that this return is wrapped in sincerity, is about expressing love in its purest form, with respect, emotional depth, and intention. This person is coming toward you not just to feel something again, but to communicate it openly, to honor it properly, and to offer you the kind of emotional presence they once struggled to give, whether you accept that offering or not. This card confirms one truth above all else. What you shared mattered deeply, and it still lives in their heart. Judgment carries an energy that cannot be avoided, delayed, or silenced. In the context of this topic, this card speaks of an awakening that arrives after denial has run its course. This is the moment where the heart finally answers to the soul. Judgment reveals that the person connected to you has reached a point of deep inner reckoning, a moment where they are forced to look at their past choices honestly and take responsibility for what they lost. This is not a light realization. It's heavy, emotional, and transformative. This card tells us that something has been activated within them. Memories you thought were buried are resurfacing. Conversations replay in their mind. Moments they once brushed off now carry meaning. Judgment shows that they are no longer running from the truth of how deeply they affected you, or how deeply you affected them. The universe has been pressing on their conscience, reminding them of the connection they abandoned and the consequences of that decision. And this pressure is coming not from guilt alone, but from clarity. Judgment also speaks of timing. This return didn't happen earlier because they weren't ready to face themselves. They needed to go through experiences that stripped away illusion. They needed to feel what life was like without you, not just emotionally, but spiritually. This card suggests that they've reached a point where silence feels louder than speaking, and avoidance feels more painful than accountability. That's why this return carries a different energy. It's not impulsive, it's intentional. There is also forgiveness woven into judgment, but not the kind that excuses the past. It's the kind that comes after truth is acknowledged. This card shows a desire for redemption. They want to make things right not just for you, but for themselves. They understand now that healing doesn't come from pretending nothing happened. It comes from owning what did. Judgment reveals that they are ready to face you with honesty, even if it's uncomfortable, because living with the truth now feels easier than living without you. This card also highlights release. Old versions of themselves are being shed. Patterns that once controlled their actions no longer feel sustainable. Judgment shows that they've outgrown the person who walked away, and in doing so, they're being called to revisit what they left behind. You represent unfinished business, not in a karmic punishment sense, but in a soul contract sense. Something between you is meant to be resolved with awareness, not avoidance. Ryu, judgment brings validation. It confirms that your feelings were real, your intuition was right, and your pain was not imagined. You didn't overreact. You didn't expect too much. The silence, the distance, the confusion, all of it is now being understood from the other side. This card shows that the universe has heard you, and balance is being restored through awareness and truth. Judgment also invites you into your own clarity. While they are waking up, you are being asked to recognize how much you've grown. This return is not meant to drag you backward. It's meant to meet you where you are now. The power dynamic has shifted. You are no longer waiting to be chosen. You already know your worth, and that changes everything. Ultimately, judgment tells us that this return is not random. It is a response to awakening, accountability, and soul-level truth. The past is being revisited not to repeat it, but to resolve it with honesty. This person is answering a call they can no longer ignore, and you are standing at a crossroads of your own, not to relive old pain, but to decide what kind of truth you're willing to accept moving forward. The lover's energy here goes far beyond surface-level attraction or romance. In the context of this topic, it speaks about recognition, the kind that comes when the soul finally admits what the heart always knew. This card reveals that the connection between you and this person was never casual, never temporary, and never replaceable. Even if circumstances, distance, or ego created separation, the bond itself remained alive underneath everything. The lovers shows that you were not just someone they loved. You were someone who reflected truth back to them, someone who awakened parts of them they didn't even realize were asleep. This card tells us that the comparison phase is over. They've seen enough, felt enough, and experienced enough to understand that what you shared was rare. The lovers doesn't allow illusions to survive forever. It forces honesty. It brings moments where a person stands at a crossroads and must choose alignment over fear. In your situation, this person once chose confusion, distraction, or avoidance. But now, the lovers shows that choice returning, only this time, it's clearer, heavier, and impossible to ignore. They know exactly who you are to them now. There's also something deeply vulnerable revealed here. The lovers speaks of emotional nakedness, of standing exposed without masks. This person is no longer trying to protect their ego or justify their past actions. They're seeing the truth of how deeply you affected them, and that realization carries both love and regret. They understand that losing you wasn't just losing a partner, it was losing a sense of harmony, safety, and emotional clarity. And that absence has echoed through every other connection they tried to form afterward. The Lover's card also highlights mutuality, and this is important. It doesn't speak of chasing or convincing. It speaks of alignment. Their return is not driven by desperation, but by awareness. They are realizing that love like this requires responsibility, that what you offered deserved care, presence, and choice. This card suggests they are coming back not to repeat old patterns, but to choose you consciously, with intention instead of impulse. They want to meet you where you are now, not where you were when things fell apart. There is also an element of truth being spoken here. The Lovers is ruled by honesty, not just with others, but with oneself. This person has reached a point where they can no longer lie to themselves about what they feel for you. They've stopped pretending that others compare. They've stopped minimizing what they lost. And in doing so, they are opening the door to reconciliation rooted in authenticity. This return is not about fantasy. It's about clarity, about finally saying what should have been said long ago. For you, this card carries a powerful message too. It reminds you of your worth, your impact, and the depth of love you're capable of giving. The Lovers shows that you were never too much. You were simply real, and real love always feels intense to those who aren't ready to handle it. This energy confirms that what you shared was genuine, and that the reason it still lingers is because it was built on soul-level recognition, not convenience. Ultimately, the Lovers tells us that this return is tied to choice, free will, conscious love. This person is being asked by the universe to step up, to love with integrity, and to honor the connection they once mishandled. And you're being shown that no matter what happens next, you were the standard, you were the lesson, you were the love that changed them. And that kind of love is never forgotten.